It was a warm afternoon in early summer. Sunlight poured over the small village, filling every field with golden light. From most houses came the sounds of tools clanking and voices calling in rhythm as people worked hard in the heat. But at the far edge of the village stood a single thatched cottage, quiet and still. Inside, a man lay on his stomach, snoring deeply. His name was Mr. Kim, a man already past 30, whose days never changed. Even when the sun climbed high into the sky, he stayed curled beneath his blanket. When he finally rose, he would lie again on the wooden porch, staring lazily at the clouds drifting by. At noon he returned to his room and slipped once more into sleep. The villagers often clicked their tongues and shook their heads. Yet Mr. Kim didn't care at all. He even sneered to himself, thinking, why work so hard when resting feels this good? That day was no different. A cool breeze slipped through the open window as he drifted toward another nap. Suddenly footsteps sounded in the yard. The door swung open, and his wife came in, her face shiny with sweat, a hoe in one hand and a bundle of grass on her back. Breathing hard, she set the load down and wiped her brow. "Dear," she said, "could you please check the water in the rice fields? The weather's been so hot that the paddies might be drying out." Mr. Kim stayed silent. When she asked again, he groaned, "Why bother? Water flows downhill anyway." His wife sighed deeply. Looking at her husband, she whispered, "There isn't anyone in this whole village as lazy as you." At that, his eyes flew open in irritation. "Then leave me alone. I don't want to hear your nagging." She said no more, and soon the house grew quiet again. Another idle day slipped away. 3 days later, before sunrise, his wife went out to work in the fields. Mr. Kim, as always, was still fast asleep. When sunlight finally filled the room, he woke and felt thirsty. As he walked toward the kitchen, something caught his eye. One drawer of his wife's old chest stood slightly open. Inside, a glimpse of white cloth peeked out. Curious, he opened it wider and found a small cloth pouch. It felt heavy in his hand. Untying the string, he saw silver and copper coins gleaming inside. It was the money his wife had quietly saved. A grin spread across his face. "With this much, I won't need to worry for a while," he thought. No more nagging, no more work. Finally, freedom. He stuffed a few clothes into a bundle, hid the money pouch inside his jacket, and left the house without a glance back. No guilt touched his heart, only relief. Mr. Kim walked down the dusty road, humming to himself as the sun began to sink. By the time twilight painted the sky red, he realized he had no place to sleep. Then, far ahead on the mountainside, he spotted a faint, flickering light. As he drew nearer, an old hut appeared. Through its window glowed the soft flame of a candle. Feeling reassured by the weight of his stolen coins, he knocked on the door. It opened slowly. An old man with a long white beard stood inside. His calm eyes gleamed strangely in the dim light. "Sir," said Mr. Kim, "may I stay here for the night?" The old man nodded silently and motioned for him to enter. The room was simple but neat. A few old paintings hung on the wall, and in the center of the room sat something unusual, a large wooden mask shaped like a cow's head. It looked so real that it seemed almost alive. Mr. Kim stepped closer and touched it. "What is this?" he asked. The old man's low voice answered, "If you wish to wear it, go ahead. But be warned, you may regret it." Mr. Kim chuckled. "Regret? It's just a mask." He lifted it and placed it over his face. The moment the mask touched his skin, a blinding flash of light filled the hut. Heat surged through his body, his bones cracked and stretched. His hands bent into hooves, his arms thickened into legs. He tried to scream, but only a deep moo echoed through the room. When the light faded, a brown cow stood trembling where Mr. Kim had been. The old man gazed at him quietly and murmured, "From now on, work hard and remember, laziness always demands its price." That night, Mr. Kim, now a cow, was tied to a post in the yard outside the old man's hut. He lay on the cold ground, staring up at the silent stars. He wanted to cry, but his tears only shimmered faintly on his fur. Before dawn, the old man came out, untied the rope, and began leading the cow down the road. After a long walk, they reached the village market. The morning sun was just rising, and traders were calling out to sell their goods. A farmer with sunburned skin stopped and examined the cow carefully. The old man said quietly, "This cow works hard, but remember, never feed radish to the cow." The farmer nodded, paid the money, and took the rope. When he looked up again, the old man had vanished into the crowd. The farmer led the cow to his field and placed a heavy wooden plow across its back. Then came the sharp snap of a whip. Pain shot through Mr. Kim's body. He wanted to scream, to say, "Stop." But all that came out was a long, aching moo. All day, under the burning sun, he pulled the plow through thick mud. Sweat soaked his body, and his muscles trembled. He could not drink, he could not rest. When evening came, the farmer led him into the barn. Exhausted, Mr. Kim collapsed onto the straw floor. His whole body ached, and for the first time in his life, he felt true regret. The next morning, the whip cracked again, and another long day began. Day after day, it was the same plowing, carrying, sweating. His hoofs sank deep into the mud, and his wounds never healed. A week passed, and though he had grown used to the cow's body, his heart was still human. That was what hurt most of all. As he worked beneath the blazing sun, memories flooded back: his wife's tired face, her rough hands, her soft voice asking him for help. He remembered how he had ignored her, how he had walked away without guilt. A deep pain rose inside him. Tears welled in his eyes, and he realized what she had endured every single day. He whispered inside his heart, "Now I understand, work is not a curse. Laziness was my real burden." A few days later, one morning, the farmer led the cow to the rice field. Then suddenly, the old man's warning came to mind: never let it eat radish. Mr. Kim stopped and gazed quietly at the radish field across the way. He knew that if he ate the radish, he might die. But he also knew he couldn't go on living like this. To live with a human heart trapped in a beast's body was too painful. Breaking free from the farmer's grip, he ran toward the radish field and began chewing the radishes. In that instant, the world turned white. The light was even stronger than the day he became a cow. The farmer stumbled backward in shock as Mr. Kim's body began to change once again. When the light faded, a man stood where the cow had been. It was Mr. Kim. He looked down at his trembling hands and saw his 5 fingers again. Mr. Kim told the farmer everything that had happened, then began walking home. His feet ached, and his legs trembled, but he did not stop. By the time the sun dipped low and the sky turned red, his familiar village came into view. He arrived at his house. In the yard, his wife was hanging laundry. Mr. Kim's chest tightened with emotion. He walked toward her slowly and knelt down before her. His wife approached and gently helped him to his feet. Tears filled her eyes as well. The next morning, even before dawn, Mr. Kim was the first to rise. "I need to get to work," he said. "I won't be lazy anymore." He picked up his hoe and headed to the field. A drop of sweat fell from his forehead into the soil, glistening under the morning sun. From that day on, Mr. Kim was a changed man. He rose earlier than anyone and went to bed later than everyone. Water flowed abundantly through his fields, and the crops grew green and strong. Mr. Kim had become the most diligent man in the village. Laziness, after all, becomes a burden one carries alone. Join us again next time for another warm and magical story from long ago. Your likes and subscriptions mean so much to us.